If you want to reach the world, if you want to make a name for yourself, and if you want to win with the people who matter most, you have to use your hand. I know what you're thinking. Oh, great. Is this the part where Ginsberg gets all touchy-feely? Yes, that's exactly what's going to happen, because that's exactly what people crave. They want to feel that they have been touched. How many of your people feel untouched? How many of your people don't feel at all? Unlike some corporate trainers, I'm not suggesting that you formulate a touchpoint strategy for managing the customer experience that aligns with the brand promises. Excuse me while being touchy-feely is bigger than that. And so today, we're going to look at making yourself, your brand, and your organization more touchy-feely. Number one, give people the experience of a psychological visibility. We look with the eyes, but we see with the heart. And if you want to assure that you leave people feeling seen, here's a few suggestions. First, instead of going out of your way to make people feel invisible, make a conscious effort. Do whatever you can in those moments to love and honor and acknowledge them. And when they're with you, give them all of you. Next, when you're engaging with people, resist the urge to check your email. They can see you looking under the table, and don't look over their shoulder to see if there's somebody more important to talk to. Just be with the people you're with right now. And lastly, when somebody comes to you with their problems, understand that they're probably not looking for advice. They're looking for understanding. So don't dispense answers when they're looking for affirmation. Remember, nothing touches people more than your willingness to be a mirror. So when was the last time you slowed down and noticed people? Number two, be open to all levels of intimacy. I just read a classic Harvard Business Review article, and what they called customer intimacy was a value discipline. I love that, because their research shows that the companies that align their whole daily activities with that idea to make it a whole discipline, those are the companies that are market leaders. So are you pushing yourself relentlessly to sustain that intimacy? Because if not, you're never going to touch people in the way they need to be touched. After all, each of your relationships, customers you've known since day one, and then prospects you've met this morning, all of these interactions, it's an ongoing laboratory of learning how to love. Your customers will teach you how to sell to them and how to love them. It's not about memorizing a couple pieces of personal information. Oh yeah, his wife's name is Shirley. Intimacy is about sharing vulnerability. It's about showing feelings. It's about showering acceptance. Intimacy is about weathering storms together. That's where the meaningful connection, that's where the emotional closeness comes from. Does that describe your relationships? Number three, slow down. You can't touch what you can't catch, and you can't feel what you can't follow. So if you want other people to have a warmer, richer experience when they're around you, pump the brakes. Here's a question that I started asking myself every day. Why am I rushing? Odds are you won't find a good answer. Now, you might not slow down right away, but that's one of those friendly mental disruptions that's going to create some awareness. And before you know it, communicating with you might become more relaxing. Remember, when people come into contact with you, it should be emotionally rewarding, not physically draining. Haste doesn't make waste. It makes people feel ignored. What elements of your daily routine could be slower? Number four, bring people center stage. I love hearing the word no. Not because it's an opening to sell, but because that's an opportunity to hear somebody's story. And sometimes that's all people really want, an audience. Someone to champion their humanity. Somebody to gather with them and say, hey, I'm here, I'm with you, I am part of this. If you want to touch someone, it's not enough to request their story. You also have to receive it, respect it, and retell it. Otherwise, they may as well be winking in the dark. That's what I love about blogging. It's a public forum where you can bring other people's stories center stage. Now, in my experience, it's the perfect way to use technology to get a little touchy-feely. The secret is you gotta treat people's stories accurately and respectfully. Do that and they'll always feel touched, especially if you email them. Now remember, people can't live without a story to tell. So how often are you handing them the microphone? Number 5, hold up your homework. A couple of friends of mine got married last year and they wrote their own vows. Their words were beautiful, they were romantic, they were heartfelt, not a dry eye in the house. But the collective heart of the entire room stopped beating when Laszlo, the groom, made the following announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a 10-minute break before the reception starts because, frankly, those vows took everything we had. That's touchy-feely. And rightly so, too. I mean, doing something that emotional, it's not easy. But there's a valuable lesson because when something you do takes everything you have, tell people. Not to boast about how strong you are, but telling them offers validation that they're people worth caring about, they're people worth showing up for, and they're people worth giving yourself away to. When was the last time you went out of your way to tell someone that you went out of your way? Now, let me suggest this. Every day, our world becomes a little less humane in its treatment of each other. I know touchy-feely isn't easy. I know touchy-feely isn't for everybody. But I'll tell you one thing. It sure beats avoidy ignory. Stick yourself out there today.